So we've got the Fiesta ST180, a car that's been highly lauded by the motoring press due to its pure analog driving style. It's something that harks back to the old days of the 205 GTI, a pure driving machine with a little bit of lift-off oversteer. Now this car is essentially made for the roads that we're in today. So we're in the heart of Snowdonia and we're going to be taking it out today to see exactly what this car is capable of. So what do we have then? We have a 1.6 turbocharged 180 brake horsepower engine. We have 15 to 20 seconds of overboost, which takes the power up to 200 brake horsepower when the accelerator is depressed. In all of the gears, but the first two gears are torque limited, so you get the overboost benefits mainly in gear 3, 4, 5 and 6. So how's this car like to drive then? So on a wet Welsh road like today, this car is fantastic. So it really grips the road. You can really feel what the car is actually doing. And this car really excels. It's just gripping even in the wet. There's so much grip, very little understeer. But you have got to control the throttle. Now I've got this car in sport mode. There are three modes. There's the full normal mode, which is traction control on. Sport mode, which dials everything down a little bit, and then if you hold the ESC button for about 5 seconds, then it switches everything off. It switches off the electronic stability control, and essentially you get a car which has no nannying whatsoever. But that also means that in the wet you're going to get a lot more wheel spin, particularly if the car's been remapped and is running more power. And so in that respect, as you just saw there, if you really put the accelerator down, you start to get some wheel spin. But otherwise, if you modulate the throttle, the car actually feels quite well balanced. So again, going into the corners, the suspension, which is quite firm, the springs are quite firm, so you feel a lot of the bumps at lower speed. But as the car goes through in these high speed corners, it feels really well, it feels really planted. And we've got standing water today, and I'm still able to just talk, drive, and everything is just being made easy by the car. So we're climbing a little bit here. You can see that the engine is really pulling very strongly. So one thing that's great about this 1.6 engine, the gearbox, which is the Gertrag IB6 gearbox. I think it's the same gearbox that was in the Ford Mondeo ST220. It's used across the Ford range. Now this is an excellent gearbox. It's a reliable gearbox. It's got 6 gears, close ratios, so you're really punching through those gears. If anything, I think first gear is very short. You're almost not in it for a long time. But as you go through the gears on these technical roads, you can always find the sweet spot with the gears, and the car just feels really balanced. It feels poised, and under brakes again, the car is just stable. Really good brakes. They're not over servoed, so you do need to put a bit of pressure onto the pedal. And as you do that, you get a really good rewarding brake feeling. So once again, hard on the brakes, into the corner, and you can just balance the car on the throttle. And the other thing that's amazing about this car is as you go through very tight turns, it just pivots around you. So coming up to a corner here, and the car just, you can almost feel it from this side here. They do say you feel the car from the seat of your pants and from your body. You can almost feel it pivoting around the corner. It's such an agile machine. Okay, so let's have a look at what's under the hood of this amazing little car. Now, Ford equipped this car with a 1.6 turbocharged engine, putting out 180 brake horsepower with the overboost function of 200 horsepower for a short amount of time. Now, it's a reliable engine. The only thing that really needs doing in terms of a major service is the cam belt every 10 years or 100,000 miles. Apart from that, it's the usual service items like oil filter, air filter, etc., spark plugs as well. It's a brilliant little engine. Now, rumour has it that Ford actually developed it for a Fiesta RS, which they never actually produced, but the internals of the engine are very strong, and quite a lot of people that tune these engines go to well over 300 horsepower with a bigger turbo, etc., and the engine internals can take it. So it's a really good engine, and it's amazing that a 1.6 engine can be so peaky or so torquey, so much torque, and it's such a nice engine, such a linear power delivery as well for a turbocharged engine, and it really suits the characteristics of the car very well. And I would say that really, along with the great chassis, the engine is the heart of this great car. So let's talk a little bit more about that engine then. So 1.6, it's quite a gutsy engine. There's no turbo lag, very little turbo lag. So it pulls from low down the RPM, so from around about 2000 RPM, it's making its power, and it's very linear in its delivery. So as you go through the rev range, it feels really linear. It feels it pulls strongly to around about 6,000, just under 6,000 RPM. Now, if you get the car remapped, which is something that I intend to do in the future, then essentially you will have that limiter removed, and you probably get a little bit more top end speed. So as you go through these bends, you're really feeling the car. You're really part of the car, and that's what I like. It's very light, it's very nimble, and it just responds exactly how you want the car to respond. It's got electric power steering, and some people argue that you lose feel relative to the older hydraulic power steering of cars of yesteryear, but I feel that with this car they've got the steering just spot on. So you can see there, I'm just enjoying the roads. Again, they're quite greasy, but you can carry so much speed through the corner because the car, the chassis is stiff. It's a stiffer chassis. The suspension is lowered relative to the normal Fiesta, which I've heard is in itself is a very good handling car. So once again, this is a car that Ford have made, which is well deserving of the ST badge.